The GT4 European Series, powered by RAFA Racing Club, comes to Holland this weekend. Welcome to Zandvoort, a welcome return for the GT4 European Series. It has been quite some time since we were last here, back in 2021, and it is another, as you would anticipate, very busy field of cars. And they're on track ready for the first qualifying session, where you have the cars from the Silver, ProAm and Am categories at differing stages, venturing out on track in order to set the time. This for the first race grid. Similar concept for race 2, with the 2 qualifying sessions effectively coming back to back. And 1 race at the end of today, 1 race tomorrow. It's been a really impressive start to the championship season. Some really good racing at Paul Ricard, a very different track here, where 10 manufacturers from 26 teams, drivers of 26 nationalities are set to do battle. It's going to be a very busy circuit, that is for sure, when we go racing. 20 minutes is the allotted time per session. David Addison and Joe Osborne trackside, sun is shining. It's still quite a chilly wind that's quite blustery outside, and that in turn always here, Joe, has that effect of dragging a little bit of the sand onto the circuit.
Yeah, exactly. Northerly breeze as well. The track temp rising, nearly 30 degrees now. This is qualifying 1A. So at the moment we've got the silver class cars out, of which are a 22. So it's still going to be a busy circuit. And then halfway through this session, we'll go into session Q1B, where we'll get the Pro-Am and the Am class, which have 13 and 8 cars respectively, creating the 43 car field, as we see the 19 Mercedes powering through the last couple of corners there. Lima Racing coming through, and then one of the NM Racing Mercedes, not the first NM Mercedes we've seen out today. GT2 had their qualifying session earlier this morning, which was after the GT3. The GT3s were very well behaved, weren't they? But the GT2s, we did have 2 red flags, 1 in each session. So Zandvoort proving its notorious nature, that it's a circuit that bites hard.
So for this silver session, silver graded or silver cup cars on track, you've got Ford, you've got Audi, you've got Aston Martin, there is Mercedes AMG and Porsche representation, as well as the NM Racing Team's Ginetta. So it's going to be a busy road, that's for sure. Lots of variety in GT4, which really has gone from strength to strength in the last few years. Their number 3 is Benjamin Lariche, a man to watch, certainly, because he has gone great guns season after season after season. One-time Formula 2 racer, and with his former rally co-driver Robert Consani, they were runners-up in the championship last season, and they come here second in the Silver Cup in the championship. This year, wins at Paul Ricard went the way of Benjamin Lariche and Robert Consani in race 2. Eric Evans and Marco Signoretti in the Academy Motorsport Mustang in race 1. Hendrik Still, Joachim Bolting and Vinny Beltramelli, Nico Farrarout were the winners in Pro-Am. And in Am, Julien Leandre and Anthony Deban won both. So they had a rather more dominant time in the Am Cup. But there, Benjamin Lariche will certainly be a driver to keep an eye on with that Audi. One of the older cars, you could argue, but it's a car that he and Consani know well. The team know it inside out, and it's always quick.
It really is. It was quickest in pre-qualifying, so the session that preceded this one that we're watching now, this car was fastest with Benjamin Lariche. So he did a 42.3, which is 0.6 faster than the qualifying lap record, but that was nearly 4.5 years ago now, so GT4 continues to improve at an alarming rate. So I expect this to maybe be in the low 41s as Lariche gets a big power slide out of turn number 1. Some of these GT4 cars actually running without traction control. The drive rate system's not quite as optimized as GT3, so some drivers preferring to turn them off and do it the old-fashioned way and just feather the throttle and try and control anything up to 470 horsepower in these GT4 cars, more their road-going siblings compared to the GT3 cars, so they look a bit softer, less aero. Car diving around, it's a purple sector 1 for Lariche, 1.1 up, but it's going to be a fast-moving target, this. So if you are watching, you've got the ability to check out the live timing on GT4ChallengeEurope.com. It's an easy way to keep it going, because at the moment our eyes are glued all over, and so will Benjamin Lariche's. Look at the traffic in front of him. I can see a Porsche that looks like it's going to be holding him up. Is he going to get on the headlight flashes? Is the Porsche going to be getting out the way? His purple sector has now been stolen away from him from Gouvet in another Audi.
This, you talk about how busy it is. This is only, if you like, half the field, because the AMs and the Pro-Ams are still to come. So it's only when you really get to the first race that you get a proper idea of just how busy it's going to be. Even through the pre-qualifying and practice sessions yesterday, different run plans mean that not always every car out on track at the same time. So Benjamin Lariche is going to go top, potentially. Let's see. Also looking very good is Eric Evans' Mustang. Clement Seiler is currently the fastest. Not anymore, because now up to the very top of the times goes in 2:59, Julien de Back, the 17-year-old Porsche specialist, ahead of number 74, which is the car in the hands of David Kuhlmann. But Benjamin Lariche eclipses all of them on a 1:42.5. This is Eric Evans in the Mustang then, winner at Paul Ricard for Matt Nicol-Jones' Academy Motorsport team, looked after by the redoubtable Andy Dean. And there, way out wide, goes Eric Evans. Great for the fans, great for us, not so good for him, not so good for the Pirelli rubber. But let's see what he can do to rebuild the final corner. Greg Gilbert then goes fastest. Greg Gilbert up to the top of the times. 1:41.431 for Gilbert. And then Eric Evans goes second, half a second down. Kicking himself, no doubt, for that mistake at the last corner.
Yeah, I think he's kicking the dust up. That's kicking him. He lost nearly all of that time in Sector 3. Looks like he might get potentially held up by that BMW in front as we go through this middle sector. Here's Gilbert, currently P1. He's about to finish Sector 1. How's it looking? He's about to break the time. 34.5 was his best. He's improved it again. Nearly a tenth quicker in Sector 1. That Audi looking after its tyres well, allowing Gilbert to keep pushing hard.
Yeah, the Audi, which is another of the cars that comes from the team speed car stable, like the Lariche Consigny car. So different livery, but Greg Gilbert's entry out of the same team. Got the Toyota Supra up the road that was very competitive in the hands of Hadrien David and Jan Duran at Ricard. Come here as championship leaders, and Hadrien David, the former Formula Regional racer, is behind the wheel at the moment to be fifth fastest. Gilbert, though, here, purple in the first sector, and I don't think he's going to catch the Supra. This could be another good lap.
Yeah, he's a tenth and a bit down in 2, misses the apex at turn 11, which forced him deep into 12. That gravel trap feels like it's magnetised to the front wheels of these cars. It always pulls you in and takes you away from where you want to be. Again, we've missed the apex there, the tyres going off. What does it mean when the tyres go off? Suddenly, when they're new, they've got so much grip, the thing's on rails. But unfortunately, all good things must come to an end, and that happens after a lap and a half normally on this Pirelli DHG. So you push harder and the car gets slower, and we've seen that in his lap time, half a second slower on that next flyer.
And the fast lane opens for Q1B, in other words, for the Pro-Ams and the AMs. We're getting quite a few lap times taken away for track limit offences. Turn 11 is where this is coming, which is the first part of the chicane, the Hans End spot, as you look now at Elon Gabay coming up towards the line in the Porsche, and as he goes up to fifth fastest, a good effort that being put in by Elon Gabay.
Looks like a bit of splitter damage potentially on the front of that Porsche. Of course, the splitter always very low to the ground, just didn't look very symmetrical. I don't know if that's potentially a trip through the gravel trap has disrupted that front splitter, or that is how low the team want to run it as we go back to Lariche in a battle pack. These guys have got a minute left of this session. Yes, there's 11 on the clock, but we stop halfway and get the other GT4 classes out. Car sliding out the rear. This track's going to be gripping up. It's been very dusty this morning, clearing up each time we get cars out. This is now the fourth session of the day, so the track's almost at optimal conditions, still under 30 degrees track temp as well, so it will still be affording these drivers good grip.
Absolutely right. Over the timing line then comes Benjamin Lariche. He's been pushed down to fourth. Another one to watch, Ricardo van der Ende going through in the BMW there, which is normally a quick car around here, but they've got one more lap in which they can wring a time out of these tyres. That's the Spanish driver Ibanez for the NM Motorsport team, third fastest, and his last lap fractionally slower. Traffic up the road as well, but get used to it, because when you go racing, there's going to be traffic. Yeah,
look at the manufacturer spread inside of the top 10. A quick look, I think that's all 10 manufacturers inside the top 10. There's 2 Audis, I'm wrong, so there's 9 in the top 10. But look at the queue forming. That shows you how keen they are to get out there. No tyre ovens. They're now released with 10 minutes to go. So these cars all leaving on cold tyres. Checker flag out for Q1A, so they will have to stop. And there's our current pole sitter, Gilbert, coming into the pit lane to finish the session. But that car will be soon out in Q2A with his teammate aboard the car, Paul Petit.
That's right. So now you've got cars finishing off Q1A having to get past Q1B. So now the road does, for an overlap lap, become very busy indeed. But it's the Am and the Pro-Ams now that we concern ourselves with. So Gilbert is in, Nathan van Springel is in. And there's the banked turn 3 as the pace at the moment is kind of overlapping as well, isn't it? Because some are slow because they've come out of the pit, some are slow because they are on an in-lap, and it's going to get very, very busy indeed.
Something flying off a car there. It looked like a metal cylinder. I can only assume that is a driver's drinks bottle that they have in the car, and that's been left on a rear wing or on a windscreen sort of at the bottom end of it, but kind of had a lot of energy. It is off the track, so I don't think we'll need anything, but something slightly strange there, if we can get a shot of that and get some feedback on the car potentially. How was the balance? And just going to get ready for Paul Petit, who had a strong Ricard, but really Gilbert was super strong in that car at all times.
Now the Borusan Automotive BMW here, heading for the pit lane, number 11, which was Jagish Gedich in that session. Right, let's have a look here at seeing what flies off.
Looks like it's off that Porsche, doesn't it?
Something cylindrical. You're right, rolling down the track, heading for the grass.
I'm not right with a drinks bottle, but I don't know what it could be. It's got a bit of weight to it, hasn't it? But I can't identify it as a component of the car, which is the only positive I can glean from my very bad synopsis of what's just happened.
Yeah, like some piping or something cylindrical, as you say. But anyway, hopefully it's not going to affect whichever car it came from. Add Lotus to the list of cars on track now. Stefano D'Aste's Lotus is on the circuit, the former World Touring Car racer, but Lotus preparer. Ginetta on track as well. Drivers now busy getting warmth into tyres as they come pouring over the line. There you can see 51, which is the Ginetta G56 in the hands of Hugo Mojica for this session. Shares with his brother Thibaut in the CMR run squad, the French team.
Interestingly, Ginetta as well announcing this week they're going to come back to GT2 racing with their car. They've obviously been in GT4 since day one, and now they're going to be in GT2 as well. Great to see GT2 growing, but also Ginetta opening their wings further. Obviously, very popular car in many one-make series in the UK, but GT racing's probably been a bit leaner than they would have wanted across the world for the last few years.
But they've also got this very healthy Ginetta GT Academy, which has boomed, and then perhaps the next step from that for some of the drivers that aren't looking at a GT3 career is go to Europe, go and race on nice circuits. GT2 or GT4 potentially is there for you. Hugo Mojica then presses on. That's a Pro-Am entry, so it'll be rapid in the class, but it'll be interesting to see where the Pro-Ams get to against the Silvers. We've only got 6.5 minutes to go. These split qualified sessions fly by.
They really do, and still working on tyre temp there, Hugo. The front weaving, and the rear was a big light up set of 11s. You could see set down coming out of turn 10, still going hard at those tyre temps. Left to right, it's very good at cleaning the tyre, but really the temp comes from acceleration and braking. That's when you generate the most energy, so he's just making sure he's ready to go. Looks like he's done a mega job of putting himself into some clean real estate. I can't see a car in front or behind for 200-300 metres, so he has now got 6 minutes of max attack to lift that Ginetta from the CMR French team up as high as he can go at the moment. Fastest Ginetta in P7.
Mojica then, who drove in the French GT Championship last year, which is for GT4 only, now spreading his wings into the European Series with brother Thibaut, who's come out of Midjet Racing, and the elder brother Thibaut Mojica. BMW's pour out down towards the Tarzan hairpin. We haven't really touched on McLaren's yet, nor Lotus. That's Stefano D'Aste, who hurls the car up towards the banking at turn 3.
Looks very low on the rear, that car, like negative rake. We're used to GT cars being higher on the rear to kind of help manipulate that weight. But look how low the rear wheel arch is. Can barely see the top of the tyre. Looks good over the bumps though, so Stefano D'Aste running his own team is doing a good job of getting the most out of it. Balance looks good, but is getting held up by that Porsche in front of him at the moment. I think that could become an issue towards the end of the lap.
Good to have Lotus on the grid. There's just the one example. So in terms of getting back data to develop the car, it really is all down to Stefano D'Aste and Alberto Nasca, the YouTuber, former Lotus Cup Italy champion. But Stefano D'Aste, who has this business, PB Racing, which prepares and develops Lotuses. If anybody knows how to get the best out of the car, it is him. Yeah,
he's done a huge amount. They did a 12-hour race earlier in the year as well, which is a great way to get development as we go on board with the 32 car. Hendrick still here coming to the second to last corner, picks the throttle up now, drives it to the gravel trap. Should be easy, flat through here. Sometimes the driver, you keep the shortest distance a little bit longer, then it's a trade-off of not scrubbing anything with the steering lock. He's pushing to the line. What time's it going to be? It's got to be a 41.4. He crosses the line, 41.9, second at the moment in class.
Second overall, class pole, in fact, Pro-Am. So Hendrik still goes second overall, and he's only half a second down on Gilbert. So Provisional in fastest in Pro-Am. And remember that they were class winners. Hendrik still, Joachim Bolting at Paul Ricard. This is turn 3. And that great circus livery that we discussed in France on the side of that car, it draws attention to itself. But Hendrik still, very, very rapid driver, very experienced in GT4 terms as well. He's been a champion in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo in the Middle East, and this now with an absolute best Sector 1 is turn 7.
Yeah, it's beautiful to watch, so smooth behind the wheel is Hendrik still. He's not just a fast driver, he's one of these coaches as well that has to do 2 jobs. You're coaching the AM while driving. It's a hard task over a weekend because you're worried about yourself because you're the most important person on planet Earth, but the guy you're coaching pays for it all. So you've got to make him feel like he's the most important person too. A bit narrow there into that corner, didn't get the chance to open the car up. Maybe he's worried about trailing the brake in this car and he's having to just take some steering angle out as we break into the chicane now. Let's watch the balance. You can see the wheels looking smooth, the steering input, hooks it into the left well, open the steering. Not too much oversteer at all from this car. It's looking good. Tyres hanging on. It wasn't the best Sector 2, but it's still in with a chance. He needs to find half a second, though, to Gilbert, who's on pole at the moment. That is a huge margin. Originally a margin of half a second anywhere else down the field until we get to the gap of 34th to 33rd place. Here we are pushing to the line. Watch the clock going. 41.4 is pole. We've just missed that 41.7. Closer, but not close enough.
Yeah, just under 4/10 shy. Now, remember, there is a point for the class pole position, so he's going to get that. This in super slow-mo is the Circus Porsche launching itself over the curb down at the approach to turn 11. So Hendrik still second fastest, and at the moment ahead of Mathieu Detre, who is second in Pro-Am, another Porsche Cayman entry. There is Detre, 27, the car that he shares with Fabien Duffieux. So Hendrik still absolute best, slower in the middle, personal best in Sector 3, and on the next lap he's a little bit slower in Sector 1. So I think he's had his best shot. 2 minutes to go, 42 cars out on track. The Indian actor Ajit Kumar is at the foot of the times, but of course he's never raced here before, so the steep learning curve of European tracks continues. Lots of supporters for him, I discovered yesterday, here to cheer him on. As here, Mathieu Detre comes down now into the Hans Ernst Bocht.
Yeah, he's backed out of this one. Is he going to box, or is he looking to try and cool the tyres, get some temp out of them and push again? This will be his last flyer if he does stay out that he's about to start. And that rear window, the big sticker on it must be quite annoying to look through the rear mirror. I'm surprised the team have done that, unless it's perforated. We see a Supra flashing the headlights, Chilk over there. Got another Supra in front, different classes, but looks like he's going to get held up. Backs out of it quite aggressively, actually. Team will be telling him less than a minute to go, so got to get ready.
Yeah, Gabriela Yelkova, along with Cindy Goudet, part of that all-female crew for the Toyota Supra, went well in France. In case you're wondering about the BOP and how competitive it all is, let me just quickly mention that 16th and 17th, Nathan van Springel's Ford Mustang, Aston Miller's McLaren, to the 1,000th equal times. So 2 totally different types of GT4 car, and yet the BOP puts them on exactly the same time to the 1,000th. Gabriela Yelkova goes through 20th fastest, slower on that lap. She'll get one more lap out of the session. The Matmut Evolution car up now towards turn 2, but not sure an improvement's going to come. There are now very, very few green sectors.
Yeah, when you talk about the times being that close, those cars doing the same time, there's 6 cars within a tenth of that 142.9 bracket there. So the BOP doing mega, but yeah, the green sector times are starting to peter out, aren't they? So is that us done? The track tempo has risen as that caught some of the teams out there. Pressure's coming up higher. They get to a point where they drop off pace-wise when the pressure gets too high. And I think that's what we're seeing from this RAFA Club GT4 qualifying session. 96,
Vasily Vladikir has not been out. So I talked about 42 cars. That would have been a 43rd, but didn't venture out onto the circuits for reasons that are not made apparent. We've got another lap time or two being removed for track limit offences. 88, the Igor Sorokin Mercedes AMG losing a lap. Gabriela Ilkova on this lap down in the sectors, so it ain't going to be an improvement, and the car potentially will peel into the pit lane anyway, so they can get ready for Q2. So Greg Gilbert the fastest by 0.355 of a second. Top 7 covered by just under a second. Greg Gilbert the fastest in silver. Hendrik Still the fastest in Pro-Am. And the best Am, Max Kronberg, who is a very good Am and has learned a lot in a short space of time, with a bit of help from Hendrik Still, who was his co-driver last year. Gabriela Ilkova pressing on, getting through the traffic, but in terms of time, to no avail.
Yeah, and really still the gap to P1 is mega. Gilbert doing a strong job there, and yeah, real mix of cars all the way down, and the mid-pack really from the top 6 down to 20th covered by less than a second. That's really where the tightness is, and another tightness is this pit lane, and that's going to be interesting in the race this evening, 5:30 local time, 5:30 p.m. the race, and yes, it's a split pit window, but always very busy, and these teams will be practicing their pushbacks, their pullbacks, and everything that is so procedural in this game.
Very true indeed. So that pit window staggered just to alleviate some of the pressure in the pit road. So that is Q1 done. Provisional grid established with Greg Gilbert, Hendrik Still, Max Kronberg as the class point for pole winners. And that gives you an idea of just how blustery it is. We look at the order. So Greg Gilbert from Hendrik Still, then Eric Evans, the top 3. Luc Ibanez, 4th, from Benjamin Lariche and Hadrien David. Elan Gabay, 7th. 8th in the times is the Efan Giardini. And for this weekend, with a new co-driver, Nicolas Siama, shared Ginetta. Ricardo van der Ende only 9th. Josh Rattican from Ruben Del Sartre. Mathieu Detry, Stanislav Savronov ahead of Eric Helston. Clement Seiler only 15th from Nathan Van Springer, Aston Miller, and then behind them, Fabien Capras. Looking a bit further down the order, 1 or 2 a bit out of sequence, like Jean-Mathieu Leandri. Victor Bouvin could have been a bit higher up, potentially. He's normally fairly rapid. And the latest of Stefano D'Aste, 28th. But it gives us another very intriguing grid, and 43 of them in total. It's going to be a lively race.
Really is a big cluster of BMWs there, isn't there? 30th, 32nd, 33rd, 34th, 35th. So they'll be looking, but the breeze is definitely picking up. The flags are fluttering a lot, so the drivers again will be contesting with changing braking conditions. If it's a headwind, obviously you can brake later, and vice versa if it's a tailwind, but the conditions can be changing with the dust and the sand that's brought onto the circuit as well. So it was a clean session. Didn't see a single spin out of there, so
no, right.
Pretty impressive. 42 cars, 1 missing, but yeah, good driving by all. Right,
so reset now. New driver, cars will be a bit lighter, new set of tyres. And then the co-driver will venture onto the circuit. We've got a couple of soloists. Ajit Kumar wants to race on his own, so that's fine. He's allowed to do that. And new to the championship this weekend, or returning, but first time we've seen him this year, Hans Holmlund with his Toyota. He is another going solo. The fast lane is open, as you see in the reflection there. The cars making their way out on track. Really arty shot, that, isn't it, as the cars in the mirror, in the reflection, go onto the fast lane. Some, of course, are still coming in and can't get down the pit road now. So it gets ever busier. So some of the teams there with the lollipop saying, where's my car? And there's a big queue. So 20 minutes we will have once we are in business. GT4, which has been a category that's just got more and more popular in recent seasons and delivers great racing. So Greg Gilbert, fastest in Q1, and also takes the point for pole in silver. He is with Alex Legui.
Big smiles down here for Greg Gilbert, who's looking rather happy after that session. That was strong, wasn't it? Talk me through it.
Yeah, the car is completely great. We know we tested yesterday with the new tires, the car, the R8 of Team Speed Car is completely unbelievable. But after 2-3 laps, I lose immediately a rear tire. So I know the race will be really tough. But yeah, we are really happy to do this pole position again.
Yeah, good. Certainly a very strong start. Well done.
Thanks.
A happy Greg Gilbert then for Team Speed Car. He has been twice the Pro-Am champion in this series, and don't bet against him being a silver champion this year, because Paul Petit is another experienced GT racer. He's driven in European Le Mans in the early days of what was then called the Blancpain Endurance Series, now GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup, and French GT as well. He drove in GT4 machinery, so experienced campaigner. That is a third pole in a row for the speed car Audi, number 8. So a job well done.
Really good. And they were both strong, both speed car Audis at Ricard at times. Green flag for Q2. Elite Motorsport out there first in their McLaren Artura reigning champions. And surprising not to see them get 2 cars out this year. Speaking to Ed Ives at Ricard, they were close to getting the second car deal and still trying. And look, I think that's one of the speed car Audis that only just getting back to their box now.
Exactly.
In fact, that's the traffic issues that you face here at Zandvoort.
That was Julien Ripper coming back in as the Silvers are on track for Q2A. So the Silver Cup cars have the track to themselves. It's the stronger class. So the road given over to just about half of the entry here as they pour their way up towards turn 3. See how close we are to the seaside here at Zandvoort. Once again, the home of the Dutch Grand Prix and a circuit that's really come back onto the radar in the last few years with more and more international races. So Roberto Faria, Paul Petit, Baudouin Detou, Will Orton, Mackenzie Cresswell, they're amongst the drivers that we have on track for this. Robert Consani takes over number 3. I rather lost track of where the Audi was in the final analysis of Q1. It just didn't quite deliver, did it? In contrast from the sister car.
Interesting to see the notes being studied there. That would have been done pre-session. That's too much writing to have been done after Q1, but just a refresher from yesterday's pre-qualifying session, exactly what's needed from Maloney there. That would all been on data, video analysis. So much thrown at these drivers, but one last chance for a bit of a synopsis as we see cars jostling for position into this final sector. Looks like the McLaren still has overall track position, but we saw a couple of laps needed to get these tyres up to temperature, so I don't expect the next lap to be ready. But actually now getting out of the way, at least of one of the Audis, our Q1 pole sitter, now in the hands of Paul Petit, like you said, experienced driver, but yeah, they're not attacking the last corner, which is a telltale sign that they're not going to be on a flyer for the next lap.
Mackenzie Cresswell in the yellow McLaren, now part of the Real Fuchs Rob Huff management stable, trying to get the warmth into the rubber, comes over the line, letting the traffic go, but you've almost got a slow bicycle race here. Paul Petit doesn't want anybody to get past him, but he isn't yet ready to pull the pin, so it's going to be a slow lap, this. He wants the road ahead of him when the tyres are at temperature. Others are going to either try and slow to let the car ahead go or battle their way through, but I think you're going to have, towards the end of the lap, a lot of slow cars as people try and buy a gap. You can see it happening already.
Yeah, and they don't want to put the energy in the tyre either. You want to keep the position by using as little effort and energy through that tyre as possible, because you want to keep it for a push lap, but there's no point keeping it if you're in traffic, and that's what Signoretti's thinking. He's like, I'm not a fan of this, I'm coming past, and there's no gentlemanly conduct there that we do see in Formula 1, don't we? They all seem to stack up, no after you, no after you.
Yeah.
Whereas here Signoretti, with his North American brashness, has decided against that.
So the Canadian driver trying to hustle his way through the pack. Marshall with his green flag and the green lights around the circuit, signifying that the session is well and truly live, but he hasn't got many cars heading his way yet.
No, he's going to get the lead pack there, so they've all taken the green. Just trying to see if anyone's pushing on their first flyer. It doesn't look like it. There's a couple of guys pushing, but not going to be anywhere near what we saw in Q1. That elite Audi still, Mercedes, McLaren, so I'll get there eventually, still getting away. My worry there is that on the dirty side of the track, it's actually going to attract a lot of dirt. He's only got a couple of corners to clean it up. The Academy Mustang still pushing hard. He's going to try and get past that Aston at the last second. I think will slow down. Does that exactly to get that gap you were talking about.
So everybody trying to avoid having their flying lap compromised by a slow car ahead. So Signoretti slows right down, the Aston does behind, others behind that will back off, let the gap develop and then accelerate out of the last corner. The Mustang sounding as fabulous as ever down towards turn 1. Paul Petit, Robert Consani then start a flying lap. They've already offered up a notional time, but there's more to come. and they've only really got 5.5 minutes in which to do it before that checkered flag comes to the Silver Cup cars to end their fun. So, Petit, Consigny out of the same stable, very different liveries on those two Audis. Last year, at one point, we only had one Audi on the grid, Consigny and Lariche's car, but they've sort of come back more strongly in numbers this year.
Yeah, it's always been a good car, just went out of favour. You see that in GT4, there's a lot of options as we see that car going very narrow into turn 7 there. Quite an interesting line from Kasani there, the car squirming around, and obviously a conscious decision because you'd normally open that corner up and let it flow quick at the moment. Just as a reminder, pole was Gilver on a 41.4, so that's got to be our target, and Consigny really hustling hard. Considering they're the same car from the same team, the balance looks very different. So it looks like the green car in front of Petit looks more balanced overall, whereas Consigny's hustling. I can see the rear of the car squirming a lot more. That can't always just be a driver difference. They could be set up exactly the same, but the driver input being that much more aggressive, that was right on the limit. Track limits for cutting T11 there for Kasani as they come into the last sector. Let's see where the lap times stack up.
Yeah, Consigny has come out of rallying. Benjamin Lariche was a single-seater racer for a time, so two very different backgrounds, trying to get the car to their liking from totally different sides of the spectrum, if you like. And Consigny now up towards the timing line. So Pedro Ibrahim's BMW fastest at the moment on a 44.7. Over the beam goes Paul Petit, who does a 42.1 and a 41.722 for Robert Consigny to the top of the times. Big lockout there for the Mercedes down towards turn 1. You've got Signoretti going through second fastest. Up to second quickest goes Marco Signoretti. So a bit like Ricard, the Mustang is a big factor.
Really is a huge factor of its physical presence. Consigny pole at the moment. That would have been good enough for pole position in Q1 as well, but 3/10 off his teammate at the moment with less fuel. We are used to Q2 being faster than Q1 for that exact reason as we follow Signoretti through the dunes here. How's his sector 1 looking? We're going to get this first split pop up now. It's green, 10.5 off. Fastest, big bit of oversteer all the way through there. It was so majestic, it didn't look dramatic, but as soon as he turned in, he was catching a big slide there, but that has lost him a huge amount of time.
Absolutely right. So now we have Consigny, Signoretti, Petit, Will Orton 4th, Roberto Faria 5th, and Gabriele Piana, champion 2 years ago, into briefly the top 6, but now the Spanish driver Jan Duran has gone ahead of him in the Toyota Supra. So Piana's BMW is back into the mix. As there you've got number 3 of Robert Consigny with an absolute best in sector 1, but he's lost a little bit of ground in sector 2 to the eye. He's closer on track to the back of the sister car of Paul Petit, but that doesn't necessarily mean that number 3 is charging. It might mean that number 8's backing off a bit.
Yeah, he's got a chance he's going to get a mega tow all the way through this last sector. Not so aero dependent, these GT4 cars, so it shouldn't be hurting him all the way up to the wall, pushing to the line. He is still P1 by 0.4 of a second. Does he improve? He does not. Half a second slower than his best. Is that the tyre done? We heard Gilvey say they had 1 lap, and at the moment, all the evidence is proving to his synopsis on that.
Right, the car there coming out of the final corner is the Ifan Gialdini Ginetta, and let's see what this is going to develop into. 4th fastest, a good effort that by Gialdini. So he goes through, former French touring car as well as French GT racer, and does that with just under 2 minutes of his part of the session to go. So the fast lane now opens for the AMs and the Pro-Ams. The pit lane is closed for everybody else. There is the Anthony Debar BMW getting ready to go, and Robert Consigny looks as though he is going to make it another Audi pole position.
Yeah, it's been strong for the first 2 rounds of the championship, that's for sure. And yeah, I just think Speed Car seem to have a great car all the way around, and it's almost like what the driver wants to get from it. Like I said, Consigny was very wild, but then Paul Petit made the car look very well balanced, so you're able to manipulate as a driver. It's perfect because you can really use it as you need.
This BMW, slowest at the moment, but Pedro Ibrahim is a quick driver, so let's see if he can dig deep. It's going the right way. Personal best, and he goes up to 14th, so there was an improvement, not a massive one. Charlie Hart, graduate of the Ginetta Junior scene, up to the top 10 now in the McLaren 812.
Yeah, McLaren struggling here, aren't they? That is the fastest McLaren, Charlie Hart, in P10, and so used to them last year dominating qualifying, especially sometimes not the easiest car to race from what the drivers were saying, but yeah, they're not in a happy place right now as this queue is gagging to go. 36 seconds until they'll be released, and it all goes again. 2 qualifying sessions split in half, so it's a whirlwind of 4 sessions effectively in 40 minutes of track time.
Right, they are ready to be released. Last few seconds, so some cars already bailing and heading for the pit lane. Others are still pushing, trying to get their last push lap done, last flying lap completed. As you see there, the Porsche gently making its way out of the chicane at the Hans Ernst Bocht. So the last few seconds count down as any second now. The lights will go green and we will be in business for the AMs and the Pro-Ams to make their way out on track. They do now.
Car's really squirreling under braking into turn 1. It's been a common theme all morning in all sessions, and just had my racing driver brain ticking in the background, which isn't a lot of effort as you could imagine. But I wonder if you in that first session, the silver drivers on your in-lap, just go through the gravel track, bring a bit of gravel onto the track, just to slow this second part of it down. I can't think of a penalty you would attract, but yeah, just a bit of a Dick Dartley move, probably highlighted on the former part of that name more than anything else. But yeah, just something that maybe I would like to do as a driver.
What a relief you're in here, not out there, so the rest of the grid. So now the road gets ever so busy. Riding on board number 32 here, which is the Porsche in the hands now of Joachim Bolting, the car out of the W&S Motorsports stable. Remember, this was a class winner at Paul Ricard. It was a car on outright pole position as well in the hands of Hendrik Still, so we know it's quick. Joachim Bolting was quite self-deprecating there, talking about the fact that he wasn't as quick or as experienced, but despite a spin in the second race, they came through to win. And of course, the Pro-Am class was split by what, 2,000ths of a second in the second race. It was an amazing finish.
Yeah, closest finish we've ever seen, full stop in overall and class, wasn't it? Yeah. All in quick succession as another Porsche is released. The car there on brand new tyres. So all the drivers have to go through this process. The wind's still not abating at all. Crowd getting a mega view from on top of the pit lane there. And you're able to wander around the dunes here at Zandvoort, one of the best circuits, in my opinion, to spectate. Not that we go to any bad ones. Monza next is a great one. You can walk through the parklands in the almost the heart of Milan, and then Spa 24 Hours, similar theme with the forest, but a completely different style of circuit and race, obviously being the CrowdStrike 24-hour race.
So the Aston here growling its way up towards the line. BMW heading for the pits. So that's the silvers done. They will start to populate the pit lane, and the rest of the cars from Pro-Am and Am get the track to themselves. So there, number 7, Alexander Weintraub from the Pro-Am class, going up round the Tarzan hairpin, the Mirage racing car. And looking to see who else you might anticipate to be quick within the next part of qualifying. Daniel Blickler possibly with his Cayman. Paolo Meloni, you looking at his track map, he should be there or thereabouts as well. And what about the Lotus this time as well? Because as we were talking about the car earlier on, in the hands of Stefano D'Aste, now it's got former Lotus champion and F4 and Legends and midget racer Alberto Nasca behind the wheel. So it should be there or thereabouts, you would have thought, in his hands.
Yeah, we saw a strange dynamic of that Lotus, didn't we? Very low on the rear, and just watching it back as well. I just wonder, maybe they've gone a bit west with the setup and maybe taking like the rear roll bar off. So big structural part of the rear subframe can help the car with squat. Maybe they've decided taking that off will help the car get traction, but normally you get big understeer when you do that. So yeah, interesting to see as we see Kumar here, second time out today, does both sessions because he's obviously a solo driver, gaining so much experience every single lap. We saw him improve a huge amount over the weekend at Ricard, but unfortunately it's a reset. You come to a new track and you have to do all the same again. Yes, there are some correlations that you've learned what the car does in certain corners, certain loads, but a circuit like Zandvoort isn't an easy task to come and learn, and so many blind crests, so you're like, I'm pretty sure it's flat over here, but then your brain will start to trick you and go, no, this could be that hairpin. It's not the fast right into turn 7, it's the tight one at turn 3. And these are all problems / enjoyment issues that new drivers face. Right,
so Ajit Kumar here, another new circuit to learn, presses on, and the Porsche from the AV Racing stable working its way now up through turn 9. This is the sort of twiddly bit of the circuit, and then coming out the other side of 10, the road opens up again on that far straight down to the Hans Ernst box. Ajit Kumar then you're riding with, the celebrated Indian actor, under the gantry, speed building, and then over the brow, hard on the brakes, down through the gears, turn sharp right.
The positive is the lines look good, the energy's not there. What do I mean by that? We're just braking slightly early, getting on the throttle slightly early, so we're not carrying the right minimum. So just listen here. We're just going to pick the throttle up, yeah, like 15, 20 meters too early. And that's a common theme when you're learning and getting up to speed. Braking early is safe, but unfortunately it hurts so many aspects of the corner. And that's what he'll be working at. His coach will be telling him, this is your brake point. Coming into turn 1, don't brake before this first advertising board, and then you can roll the speed in. Huge banking, rotate the car, let's go, full throttle again. The line looks good, just not forced onto the exit curve. And that's what I mean about the energy's not in the car. It will come, practice makes perfect.
Alexander Weintraub heading up towards the line then. The fastest that we've got at the moment out of the Pro-Ams is 27 of Fabian Defieux, ahead of Thibaut Mojica, and then Alexander Weintraub third as it goes by, and now goes fastest. So briefly fastest, because Weintraub did a 43.8 and then Thibaut Mojica did a 43.6 in the Ginetta. Not only is it good to have Ginettas back, it is a quick Ginetta.
Really quick, yeah. And it's a good race car. We know it's light on its tyres, so qualifying isn't always its strongest attribute there. Aston Martin blasting away up the hill, chased by the Ginetta there. And yes, they've got their engine in the front, but they couldn't look much more different beasts and silhouettes as we go back to this Lotus. Currently in 41st place, still can't get over how low the rear of that car looks. It looks like it's got like a trailer on the back pushing it into the ground. I bet the traction is phenomenal and the rear tyre life is going to be very good. But yeah, what can Nasaka do here as he crosses the line?
Let's see, Alberto Nasca goes through and that puts him 15th. That's a class pole. That is the best time of the session, and that puts him ahead of a good 6, 7 or so of the cars out of silver. So that, for Alberto Nasca, is a very, very good lap.
Yeah, huge lap there, isn't it? It's put him right in the middle of the silvers. Car looking well balanced, going to unwind the lock using all the curb, rides the curb, really nice, lovely scream as well from that V6 engine. You can see his name flashing away, the 3 letters indicating to us which drivers are in it. Makes it much easier for the crowd as well. Squirreling under brakes, chucks it into 7. We've got a red flag out, yeah, so car's got to slow down to 80 kilometres an hour. That'll be annoying for all the drivers on green sectors at the moment. And it's like slightly slow to react to it. I'm not going to dob him in, but yeah, 80 Ks now we're doing as we go back to Kumar, who is in the gravel trap and facing the wrong way.
Yeah.
Where is that? Looks like it could be the exit at T10 would be my guess, but happy to take your guidance on that one, David.
Yeah, I was thinking it's towards the end of the lap. 10 is end-ish of the lap, isn't it? We've got just under 3 minutes of the session to go. I would be surprised if that was restarted. And there it's coming through turn 10. You're absolutely right that he's stuck it in the gravel. He's got quite a long way wide, hasn't he, and been ensnared by the gravel there. So Ajit Kumar off the road, and the session will not resume. The session will not resume. So the qualifying for GT4 comes to an end. And therefore, it looks like we've had our 6th Audi pole out of the last 8 qualifying sessions. Let's see what Ajit did wrong here.
So we got loose in the middle, tried to get back on the throttle, and then it's a big, to me, to you, we actually saw a similar thing from Kumar, didn't we? Ricard into the last corner, and he saved that one. But here, the gravel traps beckon, and yeah, it was a bit of a tank slapper in all honesty, and the gravel traps so deep. These cars, yes, they're lightweight race cars, but 1,300 kilos-ish for that Porsche. It quickly sinks, and you are then stuck forever.
And of course, as he's been trying to fight the car and loses momentum, he can't drive out the other side. So at this point, Ajit Kumar, frustratingly, has to think about what may have been, rather than being able to finish a lap, finish the session. But the car's now being taken back onto the circuit to go round to their paddock. And this is the order then. Robert Consony ahead of Paul Petit. So it's an Audi 1-2, Mustang 3, Toyota 4. Marco Signoretti ahead of Jan Duran. Then Ethan Gialdini is 5th from Will Orton's Aston Martin, Roberto Faria from the BMW, Gabriele Piana, Benjamin Lassen, and then Charlie Hart to round out the top 10. Robert Consani then the fastest in silver. In Pro-Am, it is Alberto Nasca in the Lotus that is quickest, 1.2 seconds away from Consani, but a point for pole in the class, very welcome indeed. And a little bit further down the order, the redoubtable Anthony Deban has done it again in Am in the BMW number 317. Double winner at Ricard, pole position then, continuing the good pace that the Chazelle Technology course BMW has evinced all season. So with qualifying brought to an end, the Michael Laboda car again not getting out, so 96 missing both qualifying sessions. Track goes quiet. The GT4 first race will be at 5:30 this evening, all being well. Ajit Kumar losing his best lap time for causing that red flag, and Robert Constany and Benjamin Lariche will start race 2 on pole. Alex Leguiz with them in the pits.
And the GT4 European Series, powered by RAFA Racing. Race 2 goes to Robert Consani. You provided us with some epic racing in Paul Ricard. How tricky is it going to be to convert pole to a win here?
Oh, I'm happy to be there. The track is very difficult. It's very narrow between the wall. And I'm happy to make the pole position on race 2, and the car is very good for 1 lap, but after 1 lap the tire is completely destroyed because the gravel is very, very abrasive. So cross the finger for the race, but I think it will be a very difficult race.
This circuit, I mean, Audi have the best history at Zandvoort. What is it specifically about the Audi that suits here so much?
I don't know the history of Audi. I think you know better than me. But you don't have all the best thing for this car, but you have a good speed, the good setup, but only for 1 lap. For the race, maybe is more difficult.
Well, we'll see. Best of luck. Well done.
So well done to Robert Consani, who is the fastest then at the end of that session. And it'll be fascinating to see how the Audis do go, because, as you suggest, it's good over 1 lap in qualifying. We'll wait and see for the race. And bearing in mind that the cars have not been here since 2021, GT4 has moved on, both in terms of the level of the competition, but also in the technology of the cars to an extent and the evolutions. Just look there at super slow-mo at the front, rattling there. The headlights almost looking like they're going to pop out. Engineers hate those shots, don't they?
So much energy being dissipated in ways that you'd never expect, and that headlight was a good visual representation of that.
Let's have a look at the highlights then of qualifying, with the 2 sessions running back-to-back and split so that the Silvers had the track to themselves. And first up was the Q1 session for the Silvers, where you had Benjamin Lariche and then Elon Gabay going very rapidly indeed. So to Luc Ibanez in the Mercedes and Eric Evans Ford Mustang, another very quick car indeed. A nice big jumble grid being offered up for the first race, with Hendrik Still taking the Pro-Am pole position when the second batch of cars hit the track a little bit later. Greg Gilbert, though, taking the outright pole in the number 8 speed car entry. Paolo Maloney had a good study of the circuit map before he ventured out on track for the second session. The pit lane becoming very busy as some cars were coming in, others were getting ready to go out. And another quick car for Q2 was the Ethan Gialdini Ginetta. Marco Signoretti was trying to get himself up through the traffic so that he could get a clear lap in, but traffic was not all that easy to get through. The Audis of speed car, now Paul Petit and Robert Consani, ran together in Q2. Robert Consani taking pole position by 0.235 of a second from Paul Petit. As the number 7, Alexander Weintraub, Aston Martin, was 24th overall and 3rd in Pro-Am. 2nd in Pro-Am, Thibaut Mojica. The Lotus of Alberto Nasca was the quickest, and then the red flag came out when Ajit Kumar put his Porsche in the turn 10 gravel. So, racing at 5:30 this afternoon. Should be a really good race. We'll see you for that.